Noob Saibot is a silly name, derived from the reversed surnames of MK's co-creators, unfortunately later coinciding with gamer slang for inexperienced/inept players. This name has become something of a mark of shame for the series in recent years, and I find that incredibly sad. We live in an era where we often can't just have silly or unserious things in media anymore, regardless of how silly or unserious the core foundation is. We have to be self-aware about it and either make fun of it or leave it out entirely. It speaks to a lack of conviction in the people making these works and shows that they prioritize reputation over embracing the work and all its eccentricities. It's an offshoot of the whole sincerity versus irony problem. I mean, could you imagine putting something out there and being called cringe? Oh, it doesn't bear thinking about. You'd basically die on the spot. But it wasn't always like this. Back in the Midway era, nobody had a problem calling Noob Saibot by his name. Across Deception, Shaolin Monks and Armageddon, several characters called him that, be it in narration or just in dialogue. In Deception, Shujinko describes the completion of Ashura's quest by slaying Bi-Han, even calling him just Noob at one point, and is unafraid to say the full name while dropping the bombshell reveal that this is the original Sub-Zero from MK1, and showcasing how far Bi-Han has fallen as he and Smoke tear his brother in half.
He was Sub-Zero, Noob Saibot's brother.
Shaolin Monks has Kuai Liang use the name while explaining to the two monks why he's abandoning his quest for revenge and leaving Scorpion to them. He's off to try and save his possessed brother.
How do you know Noob Saibot is not part of this?
Because I think he is my brother.
Even Armageddon, released in 2006 as the slang term was really gaining traction online, had no problem with Kuai Liang calling his brother that name while definitively canonizing his true identity, and no one struggled to take the tragedy of the moment seriously.
He is Noob Saibot, a warrior from the Netherrealm. He is my brother. He was corrupted long ago, but now I have the chance to save him.
Keep in mind, this scene is highlighting this pair of brothers turned into enemies by one's corruption as foreshadowing for the later Dagon reveal that parallels it. In context of the prior year's game, we're to assume Kuai Liang has been trying to save his brother since the MK2 era a decade prior and still hasn't succeeded. And still, Kuai Liang doesn't call him the previous Sub-Zero or a mysterious warrior. He calls him Noob Saibot.
He is Noob Saibot.
But things changed in MK9. Now that his real name is given as Bi-Han, only announcers and narrators ever call him Noob Saibot anymore, outside of a single pre-fight intro in MKX, a game that didn't even feature him.
Noob Saibot's whereabouts are unknown.
By MK11, not a single character uses the name Noob Saibot in story mode, nor any intros, not even those featuring him, and the same goes for M1K, with the closest we got being one nod to it as a pun.
You can't match my experience.
Hey, I'm not the noob here.
And this leads us to where we currently are with Mortal Kombat 2. Alarm Bell started with one of the trailers, displaying everyone's names, but instead of Noob Saibot, it calls him Bi-Han. Same with his character poster. And in the film's rendition of Techno Syndrome, where Ed Boon once again calls him
Bi-Han.
And again, I find this refusal to use the name incredibly childish and silly. Sometimes this franchise takes itself far too seriously, despite its foundation having a lot of camp and goofiness to it. Even this incarnation of the franchise is dumb as rocks when you think about it. For instance, why does a man from 1600s Japan come back from the dead, adopt the English word scorpion as his name despite having no connections to the arachnid nor the language, exclaim, "Get over here!" in English, but otherwise speak not a single word of English in the entire film, even to his English-speaking descendant who we're given no reason to assume understands Japanese? And then, by the sequel, set a few months at most later, he's completely fluent and doesn't speak any Japanese as if he just learned English in hell, and now his "Get over here!" is a blatant Ed Boon dub instead of Hiroyuki Sanada like it was last time. Does this sound like a series that's above doing things that are silly or dumb? And yet, having a character whose name coincides with outdated internet slang is apparently too much now. The thing is, it's not even difficult to make it work. You have a few options. One is to give it a definition. Bi-Han is reborn in hell, so just say Noob and Saibot are words from some Netherrealm language. My take is that they mean born of shadow or reborn of shadow, as the case may be with Bi-Han, but it can mean anything. Justify it and people will accept it and stop thinking about it. But even without that, you can just do what people have been doing for a long time. Make the character cool until we can take it seriously. I'd like to list off a few of fiction's greatest badasses, and I want you to consider how dumb their names actually are in isolation. Solid Snake, Naked Snake, Big Boss, Batman, The Flash, Geese, Nightmare Geese, Max Payne, Sol Bad Guy, Cloud, Soap. Ignore what you know about them as characters, focus just on the names. They're silly, right? They're kinda dumb, but you can look past it because the characters are so fucking cool. Their writing and their feats and their designs allow you to overcome the goofiness and take them seriously. To the point that when Soap is bleeding out on a table and a man in his 50s is screaming "Soap!" at the top of his lungs, you can take the scene seriously because of the context of who John Soap McTavish is, and even be emotionally affected by his death. Hell, a lot of people take Batman way too seriously, even when his name, costume and premise are all ridiculous and silly. We just don't think about any of that because look how cool he is! So why can't Bihan be called Noob Saibot anymore? Oh no, not gamerspeak that is barely used anymore. It's childish and shows a lack of faith in the story and characters to be able to overcome the hurdle of a silly name, even though movie Bihan was already one of the coolest characters in the first film, and that hasn't changed in the sequel just because he changed from Cryo to Shadow. And in this particular universe, him using his real name undermines the significance of his transformation because he had a big moment in the first film declaring that he's no longer Bihan, he is now Sub-Zero. And then he changes his name back when he goes through this substantial change to his body and powers, marking feudal Sub-Zero and Noob as being more similar than either is to present Sub-Zero. What are we doing here, guys? Your cowardice has damaged the character's arc. If you're too embarrassed to use the name of this popular character that has existed since 1993, I think you're working on the wrong franchise. We need to stop being embarrassed of the things we enjoy or work on and just be sincere. The audience will see it and they will appreciate it. Stop focusing on hypothetical people who would laugh at a character being called Noob in 2026. They are not your target audience. The fans who are always happy to see him return and were excited to see his proper big screen debut are. Get your priorities straight. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Remake, Noob Saibot Edits by Mad Dragon. Not only did they not let his silly name deter them from showing him some love, but it didn't stop them from coming back a year later to do it all over again. This is your audience!